In a single night, an entire village was torn apart. 34 people were killed. Cars were swept out to sea. Bridges collapsed. Homes vanished. Officials called it a natural disaster. But what if it wasn't entirely natural? This is the story of the Lynmouth Flood and the experiment that may have changed the weather itself. If you enjoy deep historical investigations, consider subscribing and tell me in the comments where you're watching from. Now back to Lynmouth. In the early hours of a summer night, the quiet coastal village of Lynmouth in North Devon was overwhelmed by a force few could have imagined. As residents slept, walls of water mixed with mud and debris tore through the narrow streets, ripping homes from their foundations and turning familiar lanes into torrents. By morning, 34 people were dead. What was officially recorded as one of Britain's worst natural disasters would, in the years that followed, give rise to unsettling questions. Questions that hinted the catastrophe might not have been entirely the work of nature alone. The storm that struck that night was not confined to Lynmouth alone. It affected nearly the entire southwest of England, with some areas recording 9 inches of rain within a single 24-hour period. The meteorological cause was a cold front colliding with an already active thunderstorm system directly over the region. Exmoor's geography made the situation worse. Its high, open moorland channels rainfall rapidly into steep river valleys that lead directly to the coast. Crucially, the ground across Exmoor had been receiving above-average rainfall for weeks beforehand, meaning it was already saturated and unable to absorb any further water. As the floodwaters rose, uprooted trees were swept into the narrow valley above Lynmouth, accumulating into a natural dam. When that dam gave way, it released a massive wave of water, timber, and rock directly into the village below. Boulders weighing several tons were carried through the streets, destroying everything in their path. The River Lynn had previously been culverted beneath parts of the village to create more usable land. That culvert became blocked by debris, causing the river to overflow violently above ground, compounding the destruction already underway. The scale of physical destruction was immense. Over 100 buildings were either destroyed or severely damaged. Of the 31 bridges in the area, 28 were swept away entirely. 38 vehicles were carried out to sea. Some 420 people were left homeless overnight. The Rhenish Tower, a well-known local landmark at the harbor, collapsed into the sea. Away from Lynmouth itself, 3 scouts were killed at a campsite near Brendan, having been caught in the same floodwaters rushing down from the moor. From the beginning, British authorities maintained that the Lynmouth flood was the result of an exceptional but entirely natural weather event. Meteorologists explained that a low-pressure system had stalled over Exmoor, where the high terrain forced moisture upward, releasing intense rainfall over a concentrated area. At the time, forecasting technology was limited, making such a disaster impossible to predict. Historical records also showed that Lynmouth had suffered severe floods before, reinforcing the belief that this tragedy, while rare, was natural. In the aftermath, Lynmouth was rebuilt, though not identically to what had stood before. The River Lynn was partially rerouted and given a wider reinforced channel to reduce future flood risk. Houses that had stood on the most dangerous parts of the floodplain were not rebuilt, and that land was left open. A memorial garden was established in the village to commemorate the 34 people who lost their lives, and it remains a site of remembrance to this day. The disaster might have remained an accepted natural tragedy had it not been for the release of previously classified government documents around the time of the 50th anniversary in 2002. Their contents reignited public debate and prompted journalists, campaigners, and scientists to re-examine the events of that night with fresh scrutiny. Declassified files revealed the existence of a secret RAF program, Project Cumulus. Aircraft had been seeding clouds over southern England, attempting to artificially induce rainfall. Officials denied it for years, but pilots confirmed the missions, and records proved the flights had taken place. Some occurred just days before the Lynmouth Flood. Officials denied any link between Project Cumulus and the disaster, but witnesses reported cloud-seeding aircraft in the skies before the flood. Other experiments had already shown that seeding could produce heavy rainfall. Then suddenly, Project Cumulus was cancelled and never conducted again. Minutes from a War Office meeting revealed that British officials had discussed the military potential of weather modification. In Parliament, questions were raised about the government's experiments, but few answers were given. Internal documents showed concern about liability and compensation. Officials feared that if a connection to Lynmouth were ever proven, the consequences could be severe. Scientists searched Lynmouth for physical evidence. They found no clear proof of artificial interference, but silver was detected in the River Lyn, a key component used in cloud seeding. No definitive conclusion was reached, and the question remained unanswered. Campaigners, including families of the victims, have long called for a full public inquiry. Most modern meteorologists maintain that the flood was the result of natural weather conditions alone, and that cloud seeding in 1952 was too limited to cause such a disaster. Yet questions remain. The sudden end of Project Cumulus, pilot testimony, and unexplained evidence have ensured that suspicion never fully disappeared. More than 70 years later, the full truth of what happened over Exmoor that night may never be known. What truly happened that night in Lynmouth may never be fully known. But if stories like this matter to you, stories where history and mystery collide, subscribe, and let's continue uncovering the past together. Thank you for watching. See you in the next video.